This video is going to cover how to factor a quadratic expression completely. You will need at least 4 different colored writing utensils, so please pause this video so you can gather your supplies. Let's go ahead and take a look at the steps to factoring and how to make sure that we are factoring completely. The first step that we are going to want to do is look for a GCF. Now, a GCF is the greatest common factor. So it's a number that or a variable that multiplies into all of the different terms within your quadratic expression. So as I look at this first example, 10x squared plus 25x minus 15, I notice that these are all multiples of 5. And that's the highest, greatest common factor. So I'm going to go ahead and put that right here just so I remember that. Now I'm going to go ahead and divide each of these terms by 5 to give me my new quadratic expression. So I'm going to go ahead and 10 divided by 5 is 2, but I'm going to bring down that 2x squared. 25 divided by 5 is 5. I'm going to bring down the x. And then 15 divided by 5 is 3, but I'm going to bring down that minus sign as well. So I have this. Now when you're writing your quadratic expression, you're going to want to make sure that your GCF is located out in front. But what we're going to do is we're going to continue factoring, and we're going to continue factoring this quadratic expression that you see within inside of the parentheses. So the next step is to fill in the 2 corners of our generic rectangle. And that's going to be filled in with your x squared going in the bottom left and our 1's going in the top right. The next thing that I need to do is set up my diamond problem. We're taking on the same steps as we do when we are factoring normal. So in order to set up my diamond problem, I'm going to go ahead and multiply my diagonal, and that's going to give me a negative 6x squared. I'm going to go ahead and put that in the top of my diamond problem, and then I'm going to put that 5x down below. So the next thing I need to do is find the sides to fill in the rest of my generic rectangle. And that's going to go in another color. So I'm going to go ahead and list the different ways to multiply to negative 6. So now that I've listed all the different ways to multiply to negative 6, I need to find the combination that would give me a sum of 5. And the answer is this one right here, the negative 1x and the 6x. Now I'm going to go ahead and take those sides and plug them into my generic rectangle. Remember, it doesn't matter where they go within inside of your generic rectangle, you'll still get the same final answer. The next step is to use your great minds to find the factors of the generic rectangle. So that's looking for the outside of your generic rectangle. So I'm going to go ahead and start at the bottom left. To multiply to x squared, that's going to be x times x. But now to multiply to 2, that's 1 and 2. Now, the 2 is not going to go on the bottom or the base of my generic rectangle because 2 doesn't multiply into negative 1 without having to use a decimal. So the 2 is going to go on the left-hand side because 2 multiplies into 6 nicely if I were to multiply it by 3. 1 times negative 1 will give me that negative 1x that I see in the top left corner. And then I can use the top right to double check, and negative 1 times 3 does in fact give me negative 3. Now the last step is to go ahead and write your product. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and fill in my GCF at the very front of my product. Then I'm going to put my base as x plus 3, and then my height, which is 2x minus 1. Let's take a look at another example following the same steps. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is look for the GCF. So as I'm looking at this quadratic expression, I'm noticing that the GCF for this would be 2. 2 multiplies into 2x squared, and 2 multiplies into 50. I'm going to go ahead then and divide this by 2. And that's going to leave me with a new quadratic expression of x squared minus 25. And then my GCF is going to go out in front. The next step is to go ahead and fill in your 2 corners with the information that you know. So I'm going to put the x squared in the bottom left and my 1's in the top right. Don't forget that negative. The next step was to set up our diamond problem. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply this diagonal right here, and that's going to give me a negative 25x squared. That's going to go in the top of my diamond problem. And then I'm going to look for my x's. And if I look here, there are no x's within my quadratic expression, so I'm going to fill this space with a 0x. Now the next step was to find the sides of our diamond problem. So I'm going to go ahead and list all the ways to multiply to 25. So multiplying to 25, negative 25, I need to then look at my factors and figure out which one would give me a sum of 0. And that's this combination right here, 5x and negative 5x. I'm going to then take those sides and plug them into my generic rectangle. Again, it doesn't matter where they go. And then lastly, it's to use my great mind and figuring out how to find the factors, the outside of my generic rectangle. Again, I'm going to start in the bottom left. X times x is going to give me that x squared. X times 5 will give me 5x. And x times negative 5 will give me negative 5x. Again, I can use that upper right-hand box to double check my work. 5 times negative 5 does give me negative 25. And then the last step is to write my product. So we're going to always start with the GCF out in front. So there's my 2. And then my base, which is x minus 5. And my height, which is x plus 5.